you got to be careful of always saying that they're a young team and they're going to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals or they're going to get to the finals eventually. You can't take the moment for granted. That's why I'm kind of disappointed in Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics. A lot of people got upset when I came at Brad Stevens and kind of just questioned not necessarily his coaching ability, just really question his leadership when it comes to making the right adjustments in playoff moments. Now, we know what he's done in the regular season, how he had a terrible team and how the Boston Celtics has been to 3 Eastern Conference Finals. But at the same time, we got to look at it and we got to call it what it is. Like, his winning percentage in the playoffs compared to a regular season hasn't been that great. And also when it comes to when he's had a superstar caliber player, superstar talent, one of the best point guards in the world, he couldn't really manage that relationship. And if we look at this Boston Celtics series, we know that they had Kemba Walker. We know what happened the season prior with Kyrie Irving leaving. But to be honest, if they would have had Kyrie Irving, they wouldn't have lost the series against the Miami Heat because Kyrie Irving is a zone buster. Kyrie Irving is not going to be getting stopped by a 2-3 zone or a matchup zone because he's so lethal at creating off the dribble, getting to the rim, and basically finishing at the rim and also creating for others as well. That's an underrated aspect of his game that people don't talk about. So when we look at the Boston Celtics, a lot of people are going to say, well, they're a young team. Jason Tatum's young. Jaylen Brown's young. They got Kemba Walker. But this team was one of the most talented teams in the NBA, the most talented team in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. And after the Los Angeles Clippers, they're probably the most talented team overall if we're just looking at their starting 5. They had 4 20-point scorers in their lineup. They had one of the best 3-and-D and best defenders coming off the bench in Marcus Smart, and they kind of underachieved. They were supposed to beat the Miami Heat. So I know Brad Stevens is going to have a long career. He's a great coach, a top 5 coach in the game. But when it comes to key moments and key situations and key series in the playoffs, too many times it just seems like he's been getting out-coached when it matters the most. And this is a time where in 2018 he had the most talented team. 2020 he had the most talented team. He's been at the Boston Celtics head coaching tenure for 7 years, and he's yet to make it to the NBA Finals. And we've seen coaches get fired after the Coach of the Year, winning the Coach of the Year, and things like that. I'm not saying that Brad Stevens should get fired or anything. I'm just saying his leash has been a little longer than your average coaches, and I don't know why that is. But the simple matter is that in 2018, there was an article and it was actually a debate that was going around that saying that Brad Stevens was more valuable than an NBA superstar. So he came in with these high expectations. He's the Wonder Kid. He's the next Greg Popovich. Those were all things that these expectations that people had for Brad Stevens, and he hasn't really lived up to those type of expectations. And when you look at the Boston Celtics and their roster, people love to say, I'm going to say it again, they're a young team. But history hasn't been kind to young teams that have reached the finals or reached the Western or Eastern Conference Finals and not have gone out to win a championship before. If you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers when LeBron James was 22 years old, they went to a finals and they never went back to the finals, even though LeBron James was the number 1 seed or number 2 seed. LeBron James, even though those rosters weren't as great, things happen in the NBA. Everybody was like, oh, the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to make it back to the finals. They never did in LeBron's first stint after he was 22 years old, after they got swept with the San Antonio Spurs. If you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, people were like, they're a young team. They're going to be back to the finals. Even after James Harden left, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook never went back to the finals. So when you get these moments and these opportunities to go to the Western Conference Finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, and you come up short, or you keep going there, you can't get over the hump, and you can't reach the finals, or you get to the finals, everybody's thinking, well, they're a young team, they're going to get back, they're going to be there. It's very hard, it's very difficult to get to the finals, and it's very hard to, if you keep knocking on the door and you never get through, you may never get through, and that's why I want people to be cautious with saying that the Boston Celtics, even though they're such a young, talented team, it doesn't mean it's guaranteed that they're going to ever make it to the finals or get even back to a Eastern Conference Finals. So when you have those opportunities, you better basically do everything in your power to go out and go to the finals and have that opportunity to win the whole thing, because nothing is guaranteed in sports unless you have probably LeBron James on your team. But what LeBron is doing is unheard of. It's not really normal. So look at the Eastern Conference. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant both are going to be back and healthy with the Brooklyn Nets. the Raptors are going to re-up. The Miami Heat are going to be better, and they're not going to fear the Boston Celtics because they already beat the Boston Celtics. The Bucks are probably going to be better. So there's no guarantee that the Boston Celtics are even going to make the Eastern Conference Finals next year, let alone go to the finals. So this was their best opportunity, and they came up short against a great Miami Heat team that's been basically showing the whole world that, you know what, we have enough talent to go to the finals. We're just as good as a lot of the teams in the Eastern Conference that people didn't think that we were better than. But the Boston Celtics, from a talent perspective, is no reason why they shouldn't be in the finals right now playing the Los Angeles Lakers. And people got to be careful, once again, with saying that, oh, they have a young team. They got so much time. They got this. They got a lot of talent. They're going to finally get over the hump. Brad Stevens is going to finally do it.